within Iran?
Well, I think there were flaws in the president's approach, and that's you're signaling one of them. I think the president made the mistake of adding fuel to the proposition that the central issue in Middle Eastern relations and between the United States and the Muslim world are relations between Palestinian Arabs and Palestinian Jews, that is to say, Israelis. I also think, however, there's a flaw in your question. With all due respect, Bruce, the danger that Iranian acquisition, at least acquisition by the current Iranian regime of weapons of mass destruction of any kind, including nuclear weapons, is not just to Israel. It is an existential threat to lots of peoples, lots of governments, regimes of different complexions around the Middle East. And the president pushed it down. It was third or fourth on the list of issues that he spoke to in Iran and in Cairo. And I assure you that as the president was delivering his speech, it was being parsed very carefully in chancelleries and caves, throughout the region. People trying to figure out what does this mean politically. And there were big questions. There was doubt about what was he saying about Iran. What was the message that he was trying to convey to Iran? There seemed to be lots of carrots. There were questions about whether or not there were sticks. Something happened today, this very day, on George Stephanopoulos' broadcast on ABC. He interviewed Secretary Clinton. And he put to Secretary Clinton the question, actually she raised the topic, if there were an Iranian nuclear attack on Israel, she said there would be massive retaliation. George Stephanopoulos asked the question, by the United States? And Secretary Clinton said there would be massive retaliation. And then a salient pause. She conspicuously avoided that.
She didn't give him the headline.
Right. Well, or she maybe
she didn't give him the big headline.
Maybe she gave him a headline of a different court, of a different kind. There is doubt as to whether or not there would be retaliation by the United States. I don't think anyone has any doubt that there would be massive retaliation by Israel.
Now, may I just interrupt here, because
anytime you want.
For me right now, the major problem in terms of nuclear threat in the Middle East or the Muslim world is really what's happening in Pakistan. Half the country is going radical Islamic. Here is a country where the military also has great sympathy to some of these Islamics, and they have the bomb. And here we're worrying about a potential threat from Iran. What about what's going on in Pakistan, one of the bigger Islamic countries, which is on the brink of collapse? And in a way, I cannot believe our neglect of what's going on in this major country with its huge problems, and we keep worrying about what will happen if Iran develops a bomb in 2, 3, 5, 10 years. And this is a thing that really is worrying to me.
I don't think you disagree with that.
I don't disagree with that at all.
But nobody seems to be talking about it.
I think
that's what worries.
I think I can tell you why. I mean, the regimes in Pakistan, for all their defects and so forth, have not been threatening use of weapons. One must allow that the regime in Tehran is capable of saying goofy things, I mean, and very frightening things, which is why it's fresh acquisition
but I think that's
of weapons is front and center for the president. But Pakistan, you're absolutely right. It is a very serious problem.
But when we talk about things like nuclear proliferation, we can't have double standards. I think we have to have a principle and we have to have standards, whether or not there's somebody who is talking, in a way that scares us or not, because it's all subjective. So I think that it's equally important to focus on Pakistan and Iran as well as Israel, and that's one thing that's missing in the conversation. I think a lot of people in the Middle East, in the Arab world and Muslim majority world in general, feel that the discourse on nuclear proliferation from the United States is disingenuous, because we all know that the state of Israel possesses weapons of nuclear material, and so there's not much conversation going about that. And while you may argue,
you must allow that Israel has no interest in threatening any of its neighbors. There's no Israeli interest in territorial acquisition or denying somebody else an existence. But you must also allow that President Ahmadinejad has clearly, overtly, expressly threatened the existence of the state of Israel and its people.
But Israel, not Iran, started, was involved in 3 wars in the Middle East during your lifetime, and so we cannot disavow the possibility that at some point it could say that in order to protect ourselves and our existence, we need to move forward with some kind of military action.
May I just intervene say something? You told me I can say.
You can.
Now, Avigdor Lieberman is somebody who's just as extreme right as Ahmadinejad. and he has made statements
And who is
about
this for the audience?
He is
He's the foreign minister
of Israel.
Okay.
He's an extreme right-wing person who has said we should have thrown bombs on the leaders of Hamas. I mean, when he opens his mouth, there is no end to it. Let's get rid of the Arabs. This is all land of Israel. God gave it to us. Well, he's certainly a lot, for me, he's a much more or as dangerous as Ahmadinejad is. But on the other hand, if you watch what's going on in Iran, you will see that Iranians, one of the reasons they want to get rid of Ahmadinejad is because of some of these irresponsible statements he has made, and some of the candidates, including Mr. Mousavi, has said he has threatened our country by attacking Israel, by criticizing Israel, by denying the Holocaust. So Ahmadinejad doesn't have the kind of power that his statements may reflect. And even if Iran did have a bomb, it doesn't mean they're going to. Who's going to throw the bomb on Israel?
Other than Israel, which obviously in the United States, which has articulated their concern about Iran having nuclear weapons.
Right.
Where are the other strong voices in the Middle East who share that belief?
Egypt. Egypt has been historically opposed to any sort of nuclear acquisition in the Middle East, especially from Iran. And so the Egyptian government, I have to say, while I disagree with a lot of policies they have, has been very strong in speaking out against the potential of Ahmadinejad, or Iran, I should say, possessing weapons of nuclear destruction.
And should we, in reality, knowing that even domestic politicians sometimes say things because for domestic purposes, that sometimes the rhetoric gets a little far afield?
Absolutely.
And would you say, you were talking about an Israeli leader, we're talking about Ahmadinejad. Right. I mean, is part of this just domestic politics that Joe, he really doesn't mean it. He just says it because it plays well in the papers.
Gidi's right that
Khrushchev was going to bury us too. He did.
Avigdor Lieberman's rhetoric is not smooth, and the Netanyahu government may have a problem. If as foreign minister he continues the kind of rhetoric that typified him as a campaign leader of his party, Israel Beitenu. But I have to say there is no real equivalence between Lieberman, whose statements come in the context of domestic politics, and President Ahmadinejad of Iran, who has gone around the world repeating over and over again this rhetoric of destroying Israel, wiping Jewish people off the face of the earth, denying the existence of the Holocaust, and provoking, frankly, 7, 8, 9, 10 minutes of President Obama's speech at Cairo was directed at refuting Ahmadinejad and making the moral case against Ahmadinejad's refusal to recognize the reality, the historical reality of the Holocaust.
Well,
he then coupled, the president himself then coupled a trip to Buchenwald immediately following the trip to Cairo to cement, with
reinforce it, right.
to reinforce that rejection of the Ahmadinejad view of the world.
We've got to pause. Everybody wants to talk. We've got a full board of lights. We're going to bring them into the conversation as well. 1-800-723-8029 from coast to coast and border to border on America's great radio stations and XM and satellite radio. I'm Bruce Dumont. From Grand Rapids, Michigan to Bakersfield, California, you're listening to Beyond the Beltway. Thank you very much for joining us tonight. Our guests this evening include Joe Morris. Joe Morris is an attorney in private practice. He also served President Reagan as the Assistant Attorney General of the United States and Director of the Department of Justice Office of Liaison Services. He's also an American delegate, or was an American delegate, to the United Nations Commission on Human Rights, a graduate of the University of Chicago Law School and undergraduate. Always nice to have you with us, Joe.
Thank you, Bruce.
Ahmad Rahad also joins us this evening. He is the Executive Director of the Chicago office on the Council of American Islamic Relations. It's the nation's largest Muslim civil rights and advocacy group. He was born in Cairo, Egypt. He's been a United States citizen since 1997. University of Illinois graduate. In fact, his professor was Gidi Nishat, who also joins us this evening. And she, in addition to being a teacher of Islamic and Middle Eastern history at the University of Illinois at Chicago, she's a research fellow at the Hoover Institution and also is a member of the Iranian Studies Association. 1-800-723-8029. Let's go to Detroit, where Doug is listening to us on WOWO out of Fort Wayne. Go ahead.
Hi. Thanks for having me on the show. I just wanted to note a certain danger maybe with the general tenor and tactics that Obama used in his speech writing, where he more or less he talked about the complexity